What's up, guys? Welcome back to another video. Now, it's been a long while since I've been able to post. I'm very sorry, but it's because I have been doing so much stuff that I haven't had any time, but I'm gonna do another video right now. So, let's jump right in, shall we? First off, we're gonna come over here to the orange team, specifically to Iberia, which the orange team begins to launch a new expansion campaign. Their plan is, sorry, I forgot something, is to invade the camo team. Now, being a lot bigger, it is hardly a challenge for them. And very quickly, they enter into the camo team's capital. And then after sweeping around the rest of the country some more, the entire country just collapses and the orange team simply annexes them. Now we need to get rid of their capital city. With this, though, these two teams especially are very frightened that considering they're here and here, they're going to be next. So, in response to this, they decide to form an alliance. Pentagon, that's the wrong letter. The Pentagon Alliance. And they were partly right, but they were also partly wrong. Because, yes, the Orange Team is going to keep expanding, but not after them. No, they're after the Gray Team. Very quick, as soon as the war begins, they would flood across the border. The Green Team and Purple Team, seeing what they were doing, quickly jump onto the situation and launch their own invasions of the Gray Team. Now, facing 3 attackers, the Gray Team will not last very long at all. And within only a few weeks, we see the Gray Team completely dismantled. Instead, split between all 3 nations. So, and now we need to move to other parts of the Orange Team, because that's not the only place that they are expanding. We also see them expand on. I just noticed that there were 2 capitals for the Italian nation. Like I was going to say, we also see them expand into Africa. They continue down the Moroccan coast, like this. They're still unable to get very far into the Sahara Desert. But this time they begin to go really far into Africa down here. Eventually coming down here into like northern west, what we call the Western Sahara. And yes, they do expand into this area, seizing this whole area. And now, though, we finally see our first actual West African nation, the Pastel Pink Team. They form on the coast right here. However, they're not the only team here. As an Orange Team ship coming out here to figure out what just happened, they go off course and land onto the Canary Islands. And with this, we have... oh, what? We have whatever this car team is forming. And this team would send out more ships and eventually find the entire Canary archipelago. And seeing as they're the only group out here, they would seize them. And okay. We also now come back up here into Germany. We see specifically these three states begin to explore massively into the German plain and like Belgium. The brown team still hasn't quite yet crossed the Oder River, but like not a lot, but still exploring into Germany, going very far south into it, eventually into what we know as Austria. However, not quite crossing the Alpine Mountain yet. And after not long, we see all of Germany become discovered. And, like the people they are, they go in to take it. We see event, and eventually we see something like this, with, as you can see, three new states forming. One in like Belgium, one in North Bavaria, and one in Stuttgart. We also up here see the German nation find the what's it called? Oh my lord, Copenhagen Island. They explore this, and using more of the resources that they have, they would come up here and capture it, making a city on instead the other side of the island from where Austria have Copenhagen, along with a few more cities up here. Meaning that this brown nation is getting pretty strong, pretty fast. Yes, also, real quick, I'm just adding a few more cities because of population growth. We also see a few more explorations and discoveries happening up here, with a Calais ship coming over here and finding the coast of what we know as England. Specifically, the area near the Thames River. And we see them come up here and, occupy, like, Dover. However, they still have no cities yet, as it's a fairly new land and it's sort of disconnected. They do take the Isle of Wight, though. And that's not the only place where we see some crazy expansions. As also over here, we see a group of brown people leave the nation. They would come up here along the area through Gdansk and across the Vistula River. They continue up here and eventually would find the Gava River and would decide to settle down around there. Forming this, like, whatever that color is. I don't even know. Putting their city right, capital city, that's not the right color. Putting their capital city essentially right on where we would call Riga. And now we come down here into the Balkans, where we see not much happening right now, other than just some exploration. We do see these people coming up here and finding the Danube River. However, these two sides still have not found out that there's something in between, though parts of the outside here are being discovered. Currently, Greece remains peaceful, and we come up here to Ukraine, where we see a group of green people explore up the Dnipro River and capture it for the state, now begin to cross the actual river. The Romanians don't expand much, however, they are slightly mad that all happened. We also see them going up the Don River from the Pastel Yellow team and finding the end. I believe this is where the end of it would be. They would quickly, as before any other group ends up there, expand up it, reaching to the end of it. However, they are barely able to make any cities up there because it is very cold considering it is Russia. We also see the Caucasian state finally connect their 2 points here, conquering the entire Caucasian region. And with them doing this, we see a small population boom across the area, with cities being formed left and right in the Caucasus Mountains and surrounding areas. And just an overall huge population boost to the Black Sea region. Same goes with the Tan Nation and the South Anatolians. We also see our second large exploration into Iran. I keep calling the Caspians, Caucasians, getting up there with the blue team slightly exploring here, and the Mesopotamians coming from here, and the Persian, the actual Iranian team coming up from the south. And with this, we kind of see a race for Iran, as all of these factions try to gain as much territory as they can. Sorry I got so silent. And we see it ending up looking something like this. With no new cities yet, however, as many don't want to live in those mountains. The same, we see some later again, we see some explorations into North Arabia. However, like I said before, it is very hot and deserty up here, so they can't really expand to it very well. And we also see the Eritrean team finally exploring up along the Yemeni coast. Yemen coast to eventually meet pink team explorers who came from the other direction. And these two groups would expand up their coasts with the pink team going a lot faster and would have eventually meet at around the Omani-Yemeni border. We would see the Sudanese team continue their exploration south along Nile regions and would eventually find all the way down here with Eritreans coming from their direction. And we would see this middle area become fully discovered. Well, I'm just gonna, like I said, this area becomes fully discovered, and the two teams would kind of weirdly make a partition of the region, with the Sudanese being given this part of it, and the Eritreans being given the other part of it. Meaning these two are on fairly good terms. We also, last thing, major thing for the Eritreans, we see them also coming out here along smaller than smaller than coast, and eventually getting into the northern tip of Somalia. And using their strength, would go over to there and capture it, building quite a multitude of cities, being two on both sides of the border there, one here, and one there. The red team stays quite surprisingly quiet here. However, we do see one nation attempt to expand farther into the desert. The Saudi team. The Saudis would expand rapidly into this area to gain control over territory. Not necessarily making it stronger, but territory is territory. And this green team, although slightly weaker, would do the same with the red team, making some use on the territory. Now we come over here to India, which we see continuing their rapid expansionism once again. This time coming up the other coast here. However, as they begin to take it, the rapid expansion, which some may be thankful for, would quite finally catch up to them. Because, although forming almost two cities over here, we would see two major rebellions rock the nation. One in the north, in like Pakistan, and one in the south, near where the three kingdoms in our timeline were. Now, the Indians would mostly focus up north, since that is very close to the capital. With even though these people began to march in onto this exclave right here, seizing both cities, we see this nation also react, seizing this and this right here. Yeah, sorry, I got confused for a second. Down south, they would be able to crush this exclave of the Green Rebellion. However, the Green Rebellion would like what? Like I was saying, likewise capitulate all of the enclaves within their territory. Eventually, facing the loss in the south, the North Indian team may be forced to let go of South India, keeping this territory, however. However, this does not mean that they need to do the same to the north. They now focus their full attention on. They will quick actual troops over here would regain this territory. Troops over here would occupy this whole side of the rebellion. With these troops pushing back North Rebellion here and occupying here, their last city would eventually be taken, and the rebellion would collapse. So yes. And Hold on, I am just a little tired still. And with this happening, I'm going to pull this video into an end. Remember, if you guys have any suggestions, please drop them down below in the comment section. And have a nice day. Goodbye.